Hi, I'm Jon Peterson, Executive Artistic Director and founder of P3 Theater Company. And today I am sitting here with my good friend and colleague, Jimmy Hippenstiel.
Hello.
Who is the director of our production of Funny Bonz, the Humerus Solution. So, Jimmy, when did you fall in love with the theater, and why did you have to be part of the theater world?
Well, John, first of all, I want to thank you for letting me sit this close to you. This is an unusual event, and I'm enjoying it. It's delightful.
Well, thank you.
John, I began theater when I was just a tiny tot. I was about 5 years old, and my mother put me on the stage in her PTA shows. And I loved it, and she loved having me in there. And then after that, it was a natural progression. She noticed I wasn't a basketball player like my brothers, or I didn't ride horses like my sister. So she put me in an audition when I was 8 years old. And it was a group called Junior University in San Bernardino, and it was my children's theater that I grew up in. And it was only during the summer, but every summer we looked forward to it as our favorite part of the year. And then I knew I loved theater and I was going to be doing it for the rest of my life.
Oh, I can just see a little Jimmy running around in tap shoes.
Pinocchio, 10 years old.
Oh my God. What was
There are cassette tapes, by the way.
Oh my God. Cassette tapes, what are those?
1970.
Oh my God. Hey, that's the year I was born.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, this interview has been really fun. And let me ask you, John, when did you fall in love with theater? And why did you have to be a part of the theater world, other than the obvious fact that they needed you to be?
They needed me. They really did. Actually, it's kind of funny. I got a late start. I'm a late bloomer in the theater world.
As in last week? Or?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close. Thank you. You just de-aged me about 30 years. No, it was actually not until high school. The true story is I lived next to a high school in San Diego County that was known for its drugs and its gangs, and my parents didn't want me to go there. So the only way to go to a school in a different district at that time, there was a performing arts high school on the other side of the city I grew up in, Chula Vista High School for the Creative and Performing Arts, and I had taken some piano lessons at that point. So I actually auditioned and got into that school as a piano major. And then my senior year of high school, I auditioned for their madrigal choir and their glee club, aka the main attraction it was called, and was cast in both of those. And that's kind of how I got my start with that. Then I auditioned for a production of, my girlfriend at the time convinced me to audition for a production of Sound of Music. And at the age of 16, I was cast as a Nazi.
Even though there is a role, 16 going on 17.
There is, but I had never done theater, so it went to someone much more talented than I at the time. And that kind of, between that production and the two groups I was in at the Performing Arts High School, I just kind of caught the bug. And actually, I went into college as a criminology major, but then I auditioned for the choir at UC Irvine, and they convinced me to audition for their madrigal choir, which was an elite group of singers, and I had been taking voice lessons at that point, and I just kind of really just got sucked in, and by the time I graduated, I ended up with a theater degree, and no criminology, and the beast was born.
So when you think of drugs, gangs, and Nazis, think of Jon Peterson.
And the theater.
I was a madrigal too, by the way.
Were you?
Eisenhower High School. Yes.
Oh, very cool.
I was. Well, can I ask you another question, John?
Absolutely, go for it.
Why is the sketch comedy format such a unique format to you, and why do you love it?
Well, first of all, it's comedy. How can you not love comedy? I would tell you that if I was in my early 20s, I would not have liked sketch comedy. I didn't like comedy. When I was growing in the theater world, I was really a singer first and foremost. And I got caught up in an opera company, so I was this dramatic opera singer and ended up doing musical theater because I could dance.
Which some operas make me laugh, by the way.
Some are funny.
Yes,
some are very funny, especially when you don't know what they're saying. But over the years, I started doing musical comedy and getting cast in more musicals and really found the love of comedy. But sketch comedy is just so different in that it's a lot more timely, and it's basically, a lot of times it's songs you're familiar with parody lyrics written to it, and you're making fun of something that's real in the real world, and it's not necessarily part of a major dramatic storyline that's in a show. And you do get to have that connection with the audiences too, that you wouldn't in a regular musical. And I also like it, I prefer it to improv personally, because I'm not always that quick on my feet. So with sketch comedy, it is more or less scripted typically, and I do much better with some type of outline of a script at least. And it's just so much fun. It's great when you're in it and you're hearing the audiences laugh, but you're laughing too because of the material, of what it's making fun of, or what the parody is about. It's always just such a fun thing.
I was going to say I have a very similar feeling about sketch comedy. It's the fact that it's planned, but it's not planned. I know everybody's favorite part of the Carol Burnett show was when Harvey Korman or Tim Conway would make everybody bust up laughing.
Yes.
That's exciting in sketch comedy because everyone loves to improv, everyone loves to make up what they're saying and doing, but if you have a format like sketch comedy that works, and you know that it works because you've rehearsed it and you've planned it, then you've got your basic core that you can build off of and then just go to town from there.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about sketch comedy.
Yeah, the room to play and expand, and because of the relationship that the cast builds with the audiences, you get the feel for what's working right at that moment, and you can kind of expand upon it,
exactly.
or diminish it if it's not quite working out, or the crowd that particular night they're not really into colorectal surgeons, for example.
Why would you not be, first of all?
Right? I ask that question all the time. Oh my gosh. So, well, this is kind of our next question is kind of more of a collaborative question because of our business relationship with the show. Let's talk about our process in creating a sketch comedy skit. Like what do we do? Let's let everybody know what we go
First,
through.
let me talk about a place called Fire and Ice in Anaheim.
Yes,
I'm giving them a free shout out. It's a wonderful restaurant, and John and I love to meet there and talk about Funny Bonz, and we just did so a couple of nights ago. I think the process is really just keeping your eyes and ears open what the world's about right now as far as news goes, as far as what's funny in the world, which is getting harder and harder to find sometimes, but we listen to songs and we collaborate that way, and we say, hey, what do you think about this song? Johnny will email me a link to a song, and I'll go, oh my gosh, that's perfect for our group. It's hilarious, and we're a little bit irreverent. We don't always do the clean version of everything, but that's why the audiences love it. It's unexpected, and it's a guffaw moment.
Really,
you know. So if they don't expect to hear something, they're going to laugh really hard.
Yeah. If something catches you off guard and it is funny, that's the best sound is those spontaneous laughter, the guffaws, if you will.
Mostly we use each other as a sounding board, though. I'll get ideas, John will get ideas, and we go back and forth and say, what do you think? Will that work? And it usually does on our talented group of funny boners. Wait, can I say that? Funny boners? Blooper reel of our Funny Bone group.
Funny Bonzers.
Funny Bonzers. Yes, there you go. That's better.
And I have two things that I like to keep in mind when selecting material to be in the show, and it's number one, if we offend everybody, nobody can be offended.
Correct.
Of course they will anyway, but hey, it's worth a shot. And then, what was the second one? I forgot. There was something that was second. Oh, yes. If it's in the news, it's probably worth making fun of. Whether it's good news, bad news, in between news, it's out there. Everybody knows something about it, so they can relate.
Right. And again, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I have to turn the news off because you want to keep your day bright and you want to keep your day happy, and sometimes the news will get under your skin, and if we can help enlighten everybody's knowledge of what's going on in the world by poking a little fun at it, I think we've done our job.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Which takes us into, why is sketch comedy good for the soul?
Well, because laughter is good for the soul.
It is.
I mean, that's the short, easy answer, really. Everybody needs a little laughter in their lives. It only makes you happier as a person. It only makes you more productive in your day. If you're not miserable, you're not going to get a lot done. But if you're happy and laughing, you're going to go on through that day and get something accomplished.
Absolutely. And there is actually a scientific reason behind laughter being good for the soul. Something about releasing hormones and
Endorphins.
Endorphins. What are you talking about,
I
Flipper?
don't know. I don't know.
But we do have a member of our cast who is a licensed music therapist, so that might be a good question for him. Like, what are the benefits of laughter? You know, from a medical or scientific standpoint. Yeah. I mean, that's there. I mean, but it just feels good, doesn't it?
I think most of you know that.
Yeah. But if you don't, you need to get to Funny Bonz.
Laughter is good for the soul.
Yeah.
This just in. All right.
All right, so when did you hear about P3 Theater Company, and why did you want to work with this theater on Funny Bonz specifically, and why did you want to be a part of it?
Well, I heard about this whole company from Jon Peterson right over there. I've known Jon forever. We used to do theater together. We did Chorus Line together. We did Evita together and many other shows. We established a good rapport back then. We were great friends. We enjoyed being on the stage together. So when Jon tried to get what he made so successful in Florida prior to coming to California, he wanted to get it going out here. And so he gave me a call and he enlightened me on it and told me his vision, and I was intrigued. And I jumped in, and our first show at P3, when Jon wanted to get the ball rolling, was not an easy task. It was Evita, putting it on its feet. And we used a lot of very talented equity performers, and it was just a great experience for our first experience at P3. Wildly successful, got great reviews. Everybody that came loved it. And so that's, Jon asked me to direct and choreograph that because I had done that before at the theater where I met Jon. And after that, he told me about this Funny Bonz project, and I kind of jumped in as a performer at first for the Hollywood Fringe Festival. We were up there and had a great time, and I was thankful that I had the time to do it because it's always so gratifying when you don't always have time to perform to get that release.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that, and it wasn't a long run. It was just short of a month, I think.
Yeah.
And we had a good time. We made lots of friends in the Fringe Festival, and it was highly awarded, and just had a great time. But we're trying to make it bigger. We're trying to keep it going and have auditions and add more choreography, add more laughs, more songs, more lyrics, more people in the show, and make it a regular thing that people can find and visit and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. So when I was looking at casting the Fringe Festival, Jimmy was one of the first people I thought of because you are the funniest person I've ever met in my life, on stage and off. So when I was looking to cast, I thought, well, gotta call Jimmy. And because you're so popular and so in demand, and with the Music Theater Academy, you're so busy that I knew you wouldn't be able to do a long run. But the Fringe was a great test for the show to see if it would work out here on the West Coast, which it does. So I knew I had to have you involved in the production in some capacity. And if you couldn't be on the stage, absolutely having you at the wheel of this production and bring your vision in comedy to the cast and the interpretation of the songs and in the choreography. I was super thrilled that because of the way that the show is structured, you're able to be a part of that because of the flexibility of rehearsals and stuff like that.
Yeah. Just to clarify, I run a musical theater academy in Orange County, and we rehearse there sometimes for Funny Bonz. And they'll just come in after I have a rehearsal with the kids, and we just are creative, and it's great to work with adults as well as children, and I just enjoy this group so much.
Yeah, so we should give them a quick little plug, the Music Theater Academy of Orange County.
Yeah, the Musical Theater Academy of Orange County, and theater is spelled pretentiously with an R-E at the end.
And they've been a great partner with us, like you said, us being able to have rehearsals there and utilize that space, which is a fantastic space. So we're very grateful for the partnership with you guys on that too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, this says ask to Jon, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask this question to Jon.
You're so clever.
I follow instructions well. How would you explain to the audience what the new Funny Bonz, capitalized, group is about?
So, It's unlike the rest of our shows, really, our main stage productions, where we cast each production individually. This is more like a troupe of actors that we're assembling for an ongoing recurring production that updates over time based upon what's in the news, what's happening, what new material can we bring in that's just as funny, if not funnier, than the material that's in it. Got to keep it fresh so we can get those repeat offenders, aka the returning patrons, because people do that. They will come. They'll have friends come into town the following month. They go, "Oh my God, we're going to bring you to the show we saw a couple months ago. It's fantastic."
Don't forget elections are coming up. A laugh a minute.
Oh man, right. I tell you, we could have a whole comedy show on politics alone, but but there are other things out there that we have to make fun of. So, but that's basically what it is. I mean, with what we've done since the Hollywood Fringe Festival, we're expanding in 2023 by bringing on a live piano player as opposed to using musical tracks. We're bringing in new material. We've hired 2 new cast members. We're looking at hiring another couple more, and potentially even more up beyond that, because with a long-running gig type thing like this, we get people who are so talented that want to go out there and do 4 weeks of a musical type thing. So we want to be able to afford them the opportunity to do that while still being able to keep them, but keep the integrity of our show.
And then reel them back in when they're done.
Reel them back in. Yes, sirree, Bob. So we are expanding our stage a little bit. We're doing it in the same space at the Second Story Theater, but we're building some platforms to expand the playing area of the stage. So
in Hermosa Beach, right?
In Hermosa Beach,
Hermosa Beach?
Yes.
Great area. I'd never been there.
Oh, I love it.
I love it too.
It's a great city.
Who knew?
Who knew? But so we're making more playing area on the stage so Jimmy can have bigger choreography, because he is not only funny, but he's an excellent choreographer. We're building flats so we can have some type of like comedy club feel wall rather than just the black wall of a theater, to just enhance the production values and production experience. What else is there in there? Those are the big things that are happening with it, which are some big changes for us.
Those are big, yeah.
And we actually have reserved dates at the theater space all the way through 2023 into December.
And it's about once a month.
Yeah.
So you can come back, and hopefully there'll be new material every time you come, and bring your friends if you enjoy what you see.
And your family.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Maybe not your kids.
Yeah, we like to say, what is it, 13 and a half?
I would say.
Is it 13 and a half?
That half is a big difference.
It's the deal breaker. But
yes.
Again, we do leave it to the discretion of the parent, as long as we put out the caveat that there's some adult humor. I mean, it's not a nasty, dirty, raunchy show by any means, but there's some, a little bit of language and some adult humor. So use your discretion as parents, and it's up to you.
Being a teacher of youth, kids have heard a lot these days. So many of my young ones have heard more than I've heard. So
yes.
So
now I'm going to follow directions, and I'm going to ask Jimmy a question. Why, when I approached you and said, "Hey Jimmy, I've got this thing I'm doing," why did you want to direct and choreograph Funny Bonz?
Well, I had such a good time performing in it, and I knew with my schedule being so busy and not very flexible that I couldn't be reliable to you as a performer. One of the things I've cherished over my whole career is that I won't do something unless I'm responsible and committed to it. So I'm always very honest up front when I accept a project, and I think most directors and producers appreciate that honesty. So I was very honest with Jon. I said, I don't think I have time to be in this anymore, because the dates were very flexible at that point, and they would come up out of nowhere, and I just wasn't available. But that's when the opportunity presented itself to maybe move to the artistic side of the group and direct. And I think the big caveat was, let's add some choreography to the numbers. Because when we did the Fringe Festival, it was mostly just stand and make people laugh, pretty much. More of a black box feel.
Small space.
So we've gotten some really talented performers who move great and dance well, and the numbers are choreographed now, or not all of them, but a lot of them are choreographed, and it adds a lot to the show. So I think to come in as a director and choreographer, and also help Jon take some stuff off his plate, because he's pretty much a one-man show at P3, he just couldn't do everything, and I thought, well, this working relationship is going so well, let's continue it, and I'll help on the artistic side. I still count on him as a producer, though.
Yes, he does. He
Yes.
does. And yeah, it's just I'm so grateful that you're on board. Such a
Thank
wonderful thing. Yeah. So let's follow that up with what do you want the audience, as a director and choreographer, let's look at this from your perspective. What do you want the audiences to get out of Funny Bonz with the live in-person theater performances?
I think live in theater performances are the key words there. In today's world, when we've all been through such a difficult time together, I think everybody realizes that it's important now to try to resume life as much as possible. Going to live theater was such an everyday occurrence to most of us. None of the theaters have really fully bounced back from what we experienced in this world. And it's important to get out there and support live theater, first of all. So that's the main thing I want you to get out of it, is that you're seeing live people instead of seeing a movie or watching Netflix or being quarantined and watching ABC all day. You know, I think you're actually seeing live people perform. The second thing I would say is we need to have a good time. In this world, you just need to go out and experience something lighthearted, something that makes you laugh, something that makes you giggle, something that makes you think a little bit. And I think our show does all of that. And so I would hope that people would come to the show, not really knowing what to expect, but they would walk out thinking, that made me think and that changed me a little. And I enjoyed it. And then spread the word.
Yeah. It's funny what something like comedy can do with someone who might be somewhat closed-minded about a particular topic. If you're able to poke fun at something and they kind of see it from a lighthearted perspective, they may see something differently. So there's a potential education there.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good to know as we're looking for new material. We can alter your minds.
I've even experienced that as a performer in the show. I thought, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. All right, I'm going to ask you now. What are you looking forward to when you are performing live with the rest of the Funny Bonz group?
Having a good time. Like Jimmy's mentioned several times, we've got such talent in our group. These actors, singer, dancers they're so talented. Number one, it's a privilege to be on stage with them, creating comedy. It really is fun, and we have fun together as a unit. But I love that energy that comes from the audience when you hear someone laughing, and you can look out there in sketch comedy because there is no fourth wall. We can look right at someone and just seeing their laughter and the pure enjoyment that they're getting out of something like this it's so gratifying. Something you can't get if you're a film or TV actor. Yeah. You may have a couple crew members titter in the back, but they have to be silent because everything's mic'd and everything. But it's just really...
On the subject of gratification, I no longer perform live with the group, not to say that I won't in the future, but something that I find gratifying is watching Jon on stage, because he is just as talented and more experienced than anybody up there. And I got to tell you, for me to watch him put all these jigsaw puzzle pieces together and to experience the stress of getting the venue, sometimes getting food going to the audience and trying to sell tickets and trying to keep it advertised. And it's a lot, I know, because I run my company and I'm pretty much a one-man show over there. The moment that I can sit in the audience and watch Jon let loose, that's what I find gratifying, and that's hopefully what I find he looks forward to, is that moment where I can say, okay, all the pieces are put together, now I can have a good time.
It's so nice to be able to do that. When I'm backstage, there's nothing I can do about anything that's going on in the box office, or
you're at a point where you just got to have fun.
In my emails or any phone calls. No, I've got a show to do, and there's nothing like being an actor in a live show. It's just, yeah.
I love seeing him take off his producer hat and put on his performer hat.
So nice. Don't get me wrong, I love being a producer.
No, they're both fun, but in a different way.
Very different. Absolutely. Let's see, where are we here? What number are we on?
Why must viewers attend P3 Theater Funny Bonz live performances and go monthly to see Funny Bonz? I think we've touched on that a little bit already.
We have.
But just come out to have a good time. That's the main opportunity. But also, if it goes once a month, chances are when you come back, the material will have changed a little bit. So you might see a different performer. Sometimes your favorite performer will be missing and you're like, oh, I'm going to come back next month to see them again. So I think if you came once a month, or at least every other month, you would see different material, different people, different songs, different lyrics, different laughs, and have a different kind of good time.
Absolutely. And putting the producer hat on with that, your support of live theater. You attending over and over, especially if you're enjoying yourselves, which you will, it helps support the theater and keep the theater going. And you know, those ticket sales, they aren't a majority of what the theaters need to make their business run, but it's a big part of it. And you know, without the audiences, we wouldn't have a theater.
Correct.
So from a business aspect, that's my answer to that. But when you do that, you will have the fun that Jimmy's talking about. And that's,
Pardon me while I have a sip of vodka. I mean, water. That's what I wrote, water.
Uh-huh.
Just water, clear water.
Let's see here. So you have a question to ask of me.
I do. What are your hopes for the new P3 Theater Funny Bonz group now and in the future? And again, I think you've already touched on that a little bit.
We have, but I do have a little bit of a vision that we haven't touched on yet, and that is to actually have such a demand for our product, our show, that we have to have more performances because we're selling out and audiences are wanting to come see the show, which with being able to reach out to more people in the community, it creates more work for our actors and creative team, which is great for actors to be employed. It all helps the economy. You know, people come down to see our show. There are a lot of
great... You go to Hermosa Beach, you go out to the restaurants afterwards.
And then
after the show, the city.
After the show, you go to the bars. There's so much to do down at Pier Plaza in Hermosa Beach and in the whole South Bay area. But
I know a good place to go to watch football, by the way, so I'll let you know.
So on top of being able to have more performances, maybe 2 weekends a month or 3 weekends a month or maybe every weekend.
Or maybe in a different location.
And that's what's my next thing, is to be able to expand to possibly have a touring company of Funny Bonz that does different venues in the Southern California area, or maybe one that goes out to Palm Springs for a month. They need to laugh out there too. It's so darn hot that you gotta laugh. So we'll make sure we find a song about heat or summer or the desert or something. But yeah, to be able to have like a traveling troupe, that type of thing, or to even do corporate events. This is perfect for corporate events or private events, Christmas parties. When I worked at Laughing Matters, which is the predecessor to Funny Bonz from the East Coast in Florida, we had Boeing, the airline, they bought out the venue. DHL, they bought out, we did sold out or buyout events. So those are opportunities as well. So we're looking forward to expanding to all of that and really just having a ball.
We can only do that with your support. Which brings us to our next question, I think. Yeah, why are theaters like the P3 Theater Company so important and need the community's help and support? Need the communities to help and support them?
You know, I love this question because you've got theaters in every major city, theaters like the Amundsen, the Pantages, the Segerstrom Center, where these big Broadway touring companies come through, and those are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But when you dial it down into the communities and you talk about the small regional theaters, those are the theater companies that have programming and do productions that really reach out to our communities. They have education programs. They have just different types of things. They'll do sometimes more poignant works of theater that deal with certain issues that a lot of times producers will look at their season and look at their community. What does our community want? So we're not going to be necessarily doing a big production of Wicked if our community really wants. Everybody.
That was my next idea. Okay, but I'll get back on it. Don't worry.
Thank you. I was actually kind of getting off track a little, but we are the community. The people who are in these shows and put on these shows for our community are members of the community. I think
what's important to remember too, small community theaters are very similar to large theaters like the Pentages, like Segerstrom, in that every single theater group thrives on support and generous donations.
Yes.
I don't think people realize how expensive theater is. Sometimes I'll tell, my parents of my kids that I teach, yeah, this show costs $35,000. And they're like, what? They just don't understand that. And you cannot do it without support, without donations, without people who believe in the arts and will give of themselves and of their personal income. They will use it to support the arts. So donations are so important, and even buying tickets. I mean, that helps so much if you just come to the show, buy a ticket, and every little bit of support that we can get from every single person is going to help in the long run.
And while monetary is certainly the first and foremost need of theater companies, there is also another way. There are other ways to give, such as volunteering, offering your time. Some people don't have the means to make a big financial donation, but I tell you what, one person helping for 20 hours, if you look at minimum wage,
it's invaluable.
It's invaluable, and then they get to be part of the process too, which is fantastic. So many ways that support is helpful to the theaters, and we wouldn't be here without it for sure. So yes. Anything you'd like to add to that, Jimmy?
No, I would just say I look forward to hopefully seeing you listen to this interview, learning a little bit more about Funny Bonz, and come out and see us, and then help spread the word. Because like Jon says, he has big vision, big passion about this expanding to greater new heights, and we can't do that without you. So please, we look forward to you coming to Funny Bonz, and we look forward to seeing you next time in the theater.
And how do I get tickets to Funny Bonz, or how do I support P3
Let me
Theater?
ask that. How do I get tickets to Funny Bonz? And how do I support the P3 Theater Company?
Well,
And don't make me use my director voice!
let me answer your question
Okay.
very clearly and plainly. For tickets or for support of P3 Theater Company, visit our website at www.p3theater.biz. That's P3THEATRE.biz, B-I-Z, like
As in
showbiz.
showbiz.
Or you can call our box office at 714-689-8116. And another way is word of mouth. I just remembered that. But you can follow our social media. We are on Instagram, P3 Theater Company. We are on Facebook, P3 Theater Company. We're no longer on Twitter. There's a whole song about that. But yeah. So we will wrap this up by saying, see you at the theater.
Yeah, sure.
We will go,
See you at the theater. Bye.
Ciao.